Second question, true or false? A woman is more likely to have BV than a yeast infection.
Yeah, by a lot. And I think the reason why I bring this up in a room of very smart clinicians who probably already have seen this and know this kind of like the back of their hand is because for our patients, this is not common knowledge. I think over the course, of your and my career, we've at least gotten more familiar with what the BV as a concept. I think there are more patients who come in and say, I have heard of this before, or I have even had this before, but still sort of out in the world, a yeast infection is the most commonly thought cause of vaginitis.
Right.
And we have our over-the-counter products, right, that would help support sort of, oh, I'm a little uncomfortable, then when I run to the supermarket and get something to fix that. But we're seeing the reasons that that's a bad thing. And one of them is some pretty significant fluconazole resistance that we're seeing starting in the country. And so we want to try to debunk that myth, right? That yeast is the most common vaginitis.
Yeah, so when I was going through my own burnout journey, I felt very alone. Like I did not talk to any of my coworkers or friends, about how I was feeling burned out. And so that's what I had wanted to do, when I started the Burned Out NP, was just to let nurse practitioners know it's okay, to be burned out. Like you're not alone. You're not the only one. Like I'm here to just offer that support and that help. And so that, getting that reach through social media was really important, just to bring awareness to the topic and just know that nurse practitioners do have support.
Very wonderful question, because it's very dependent on, yes, getting coverage, but then once you have insurance coverage, it still doesn't guarantee you get health care. Okay, you have access to health care.
Right.
That's important, because a lot of people don't, especially where we live in Atlanta, there's not a lot of general transportation, public transportation. So you can have coverage and not be able to get to the doctor's office. So there's a lot of issues. And sometimes we say, oh, look, now we've got so many more people with insurance. Well, we need to be careful that we're talking about insurance that's accessible and affordable. Some of the new co-pays with some of the insurance policies are outrageous for our patients. So that's why we see them in our free and low income clinic, because they can't afford the co-pays.
Right.
Now, I think one of the areas that I've really seen what I can do better now than I could in the office is like depression, anxiety is a really good example. To Bernadette's point, like I can spend all day talking to this person. It can wait till before work, after work, whenever it's convenient for them. So that's one less stress that they have to kind of deal with. And then on the flip side, I don't have to fear the waiting room that's just continually building up and feeling that pressure of, oh, I need to spend another 10 minutes with this person, but that's going to put me behind for the next person. And that guy, he's going to let me know that I made him late. And now he's missing his work or lunch or whatever it is. And so you're not playing that game of like checkers in your brain all the time. And I can just take care of the person as they need the care. And so that's been really refreshing, that I know, hey, if we need to talk in 2 days, we'll be here. If we need to talk a week from now, we'll be here. And hey, 2:00 in the morning, guess what? We'll be here. And so that's been really rewarding to know that, okay, this is better than I was doing just on my own before.
What are students struggling with? Where do you see them needing more assistance? And what are some tips that you may have for students?
I see students hungry for knowledge. They really are. And they get a lot of it through the university setting. They are challenged with finding preceptors. Sometimes that is definitely a challenge that they face, is in finding preceptors. And sometimes they have to put school on hold just to find a preceptor to do clinical practice in. And those clinical experiences vary as well, depending on who your preceptor is, what setting you're in, what patients you get to encounter on a daily basis. And so sometimes there are gaps, and educational products can help fill those gaps.
Right.
And so case studies, questions that cover a wide variety of things. And so students are always hungry for that. And questions is a great place.
Because I had essential tremor, which was so obvious, you could see me coming a mile away. I was very actively moving. that when I started on the cannabis, I became more still, and my friends and family were obviously they noticed pretty quickly, and they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You seem so much better." And after they got over the shock of me being on cannabis, because I'm probably the most conservative person that you'll ever meet. So the last person you would expect to embrace this type of a treatment, they were like, "Wow, do you think it could help me with all kinds of things? Migraines, chronic pain, insomnia, cancer treatments, all of those things." And that's how I started my consulting business. And I've been doing cannabis consulting now for 8 years. I work, exclusively with medical patients who have conditions that respond well to cannabis. And because everybody is a little bit different in terms of how they respond to cannabis, I help them create protocols that will address their medical needs and fit their lifestyle.
So at what points, you kind of told us the patients, but where along their journey should, like, because there's plenty of CHS patients that we manage all the time and they're great. When we kind of know with hospice what that line is, you said 6 months. When do we go, palliative care should really help? When they're getting more symptoms that
More
we can
symptoms,
manage, or
yeah.
it's all the time?
I would say as they begin to advance in that,
Okay.
in the diagnosis. So, we diagnose people all the time in stage 1 and stage 2. If you look at like gold, CHF gold
Yes, yes.
criteria, 1 and 2 is where you're going to diagnose them. Usually 1 because you're doing an amazing job. But do we need to see them necessarily at 1? No, not necessarily. Maybe when they begin to get to the end of 2, stage 2, that would be a great time. Also, it's a good time for us to meet them at any point to say, hey, we're here and you may need us.
Primary care providers, one piece of advice for us.
Oh my gosh, listen to the patient. Don't just assume because they have vague symptoms, they don't have something very serious. Vague symptoms, non-specific symptoms, only one symptom like I had. If they're postmenopausal, you need to take them very seriously. And
Okay.
even if they're not postmenopausal, I have a friend that has breast cancer at age 38 now. She found her own lump. When she went to her primary care, they're like, "That can't be cancer. You're 38 years old. No family history." Well, it turned out to be very aggressive breast cancer. So I think we need to just appreciate the numbers are increasing in young people in terms of cancers. We know that. That's why guidelines are changing.
Right.
That's why the mammography guidelines have changed to age 40 from the United States Preventative Services Task Force. They don't change easily.
Right.
So
Takes
we need to be
evidence.
extremely careful with our patients.
What I love about functional medicine is it's not alternative medicine. It's not instead of. It is, I would say, it is conventional medicine done right. It's conventional medicine done to the ultimate level. And let me tell you what I mean by that, right? So like, let's just take diabetes, for example. Everyone knows about diabetes. We know that when we look at the algorithm, if we go to up to date, the first line before medications is lifestyle intervention.
Right.
But we don't have time for lifestyle intervention. We don't have time for it. So we skip over that. Oh, yeah, A1C 6.4. Here's your metformin. Here's your Actos. I'll see you in 3 months. We'll check your A1C. We're good to go. Because the system is not set up for that first line lifestyle intervention.
We're referring someone, if I have someone with back pain and I want them to be seen, what advantage will it get me to see someone that has manual therapy expertise?
Well, manual therapy is really, looking at the area and palpating the actual area versus just guessing or assuming, which could get us into a lot of trouble oftentimes, right? Not everything is exercise remedied. Not everything is pain med remedied. We all know that. Not everything is injection-based remedied. So what is manual therapy? It's actually applying your hands on the person and delivering different types of techniques, such as osteopathic techniques, such as strain counter strain, which is one of my greatest go-tos. It only takes 90 seconds. It's very efficient. It creates a neurological change in the muscle. It helps correct postural alignment, which a lot of times is the problem.